Today, we're going to dig into a 2,000-year-old idea that is, believe it or not, radically reshaping our modern world. Okay, so take a look at this. You've got ancient Roman coins, these unique Chinese fishing nets you can find in India, and a super modern freight train way over in Spain. What in the world could connect all of these? I mean, they seem totally unrelated, right? Well, it turns out they're all threads in the exact same epic story, one that stretches across continents and centuries. The answer? It's one of the most powerful concepts in all of human history, the Silk Road. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. The story of its incredible ancient past and its absolutely massive 21st century reboot. All right, first things first. Let's journey back in time, way back, to the original network that first connected East and West. You could almost call it the world's first real wave of globalization. Now, the first thing you've got to understand is that the Silk Road wasn't really a single road at all. It was more like a sprawling, complex web of paths, winding across brutal deserts, over massive mountains, and even across oceans. And these routes weren't static. They ebbed and flowed with the rise and fall of empires, acting like this dynamic artery for the ancient world for, get this, over 1,500 years. So why call it the Silk Road? Well, it's named for that incredibly valuable Chinese silk that absolutely captivated the Roman Empire. I mean, they were so obsessed with it, they actually called China Serica, which means the land of silk. But it wasn't just about silk. So many other goods were moving in both directions. You had Chinese porcelain and tea heading west, while things like powerful Central Asian horses and beautiful Roman glassware traveled east. But here's what's really fascinating. The most valuable things traded, well, they weren't goods at all. They were world-changing ideas. The Silk Road was basically a superhighway for culture. Think about it. Buddhism traveled from India all the way to China along these routes. And technologies that would define the future, paper, gunpowder, the compass, they all moved west, and they fundamentally changed the course of history. Okay, now let's hit fast forward. We're jumping to today to see how this ancient idea has been reimagined on a scale that is just unbelievable. You've probably heard it called the New Silk Road, right? Well, its official name is the Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI for short. This is the signature project of Chinese leader Xi Jinping, and the goal is massive, to build this huge network of railways, ports, pipelines, and highways connecting everything up. And when I say the scale is massive, I mean it's absolutely staggering. We're talking about roughly 150 countries participating in some way. That makes this a project that spans a huge chunk of the globe, and it pretty much dwarfs any other infrastructure plan in history. It's that big. So the big question is, how does this modern vision really compare to the original? Is it just, Silk Road Part 2, or is it something else entirely? Okay, this is the crucial difference right here. It really comes down to their nature. The ancient routes, they grew organically, naturally, over centuries. They were driven by countless different merchants and empires, all acting in their own interest. The BRI? Totally different. It's a strategic, centrally planned initiative, led and driven by a single state, China. And this chart really breaks it down nicely. You can see the key shifts. The core purpose went from simple trade and cultural exchange to building strategic infrastructure. The participants went from individual merchants and old empires to over 150 countries and state actors. And the challenges? Well, they've evolved from things like bandits and tough terrain to the really complex modern risks of, say, debt and geopolitical friction. And here's the thing. Just like the original Silk Road, this new network is a double-edged sword. It brings both massive opportunities and, you guessed it, pretty significant controversies. It's a really high-stakes game. So let's talk about the good stuff first. For the countries that sign on, the promise is huge. I mean, just think about this. A freight train can now go from Yiwu in China all the way to Madrid, Spain, and it cuts the travel time from a grueling 45 days by sea down to just 15 days. That's a game changer. And for landlocked countries, this is a total lifeline to new markets, bringing in modern infrastructure and a real shot at economic growth. But there's another side to this coin. The initiative is super controversial. You hear critics talking a lot about the risk of debt traps. That's where smaller nations take on these massive loans they just can't pay back. A classic example people always point to is Sri Lanka having to hand over control of its Hambantota port to China. And beyond that, there are real concerns about projects failing, the environmental impact, and of course, the huge amount of geopolitical influence this gives to China. So where does this all leave us? What does the future actually hold for this new era of global connection? And maybe more importantly, why should you care? Well, the stakes are incredibly high. Because let's be clear, this isn't just about pouring concrete for roads and ports. This is about building entirely new relationships of power. It's about creating new economic centers of gravity and drawing new lines of influence that will shape the next century. The Belt and Road Initiative is, right now, actively redrawing the economic and political map of the 21st century. It's happening before our eyes. And that leaves us with one final and really crucial question to think about. As these new arteries of trade and influence harden, what kind of world are they actually building for all of us?